Aloha, welcome to Estate Planning Essentials. On this program, we're going to be talking about some of the trials and tribulations and hopefully some of the blessings that come along with owning rental real estate. I'm attorney Scott Makuakane of the law firm Est8Planning Counsel. And in the studio tonight, we have Carl Frazier, who is the principal broker and owner of Cornerstone Properties. Thanks for coming on the show, Carl.
Thank you, Scott, for having me.
And also we have Janie Nakamatsu, who heads up the Trust Administration and Probate Department at Est8Planning Counsel.
Hey, Scott.
So Carl, why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about you, a little bit about your background, and then what I want to ask you about is why it's important to have somebody like you help with managing rental real estate.
Okay, sure, Scott. Well, I've been a licensed real estate agent for 20 years now, and I started with like sales of real estate, buying and selling property, and then I became a property manager about 15 years ago under my mentor Al Martin, somebody who you know as well. Mm-hmm. And so I've been doing property management for 15 years. I am a broker or a realtor in the state of Hawaii. I own my own business. We currently manage about 500 units. I'm also very involved in our national property management association called NARPM, National Association of Residential Property Managers. I know it's a mouthful, but I've been past president of the Oahu chapter, and I've been a speaker at the national convention as well. So it's a job that I love very much to do.
So you help people who own rental real estate, whether it's a condo or a house, to deal with tenants and like that.
That's correct. Basically what we do is, our job is to make their job as easy as possible. So basically, here's the keys, Carl, manage our property. So I liken ourselves to be a steward. Mm-hmm. You know, they're the king, they're the queen, but we're the steward, like in Lord of the Rings, right? The steward of Gondor. If we don't do a good job, they're going to come back and chop off our heads, right? So hopefully they won't do that, right? But so we're managing other people's assets for them. Uh-huh. So, and that's what we do.
Okay. Now, why is it important to have somebody like you be the go-between between the owner and the tenant?
Well, that's a very good question, and of course that's one that's often asked us. And of course one of the reasons is because as professional property manager, we know the laws of the state, local, and federal areas that we work in. Now, I'm not an attorney, and if anything comes up legal, of course we always refer either our tenants or our owners to attorneys. But we have to know things like the landlord-tenant code. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times private owners simply don't know that. For example, one of the codes that private owners often run afoul of is the return of security deposits. Mm-hmm. Right?
I'm sure that's a big one.
It is a big one. And and in the state of Hawaii, you have 14 days to return a security deposit. That's calendar days. So in the landlord-tenant code, you have many different provisions of actions you have to do within a certain number of days. Some are business days, and some are calendar days. Well, mm-hmm. Security deposit is calendar days. And you have to either return security deposit or return part of it along with an explanation of why you're withholding that money. If you don't, if you go to court, you will lose automatically, just about automatically. And if the court finds that you are withholding the security deposit illegally, then you can be subject up to triple damages. So if you have a $1,000 security deposit you're holding back and you did not return it within 14 days, then suddenly you may be paying $3,000 instead. Ouch. So that's one thing, is that we do know, the current landlord codes, because we have continuing education classes. In our national association, we have our monthly chapters that we talk about current laws and regulations in regards to the law. Fair housing is another one. It's another biggie. You don't want to have a fair housing suit against you. So you have to know the fair housing laws about how you can or cannot rent to people.
What does fair housing involve?
Well, basically there are certain protected class under law in regards to housing. And among them, color, creed, religious, familiar status, those types of things. I had one client who said, Carl, no, I know that you're professional, but we prefer not to have children, wink wink, in our building, right? And I said, well, I'm sorry, I can't guarantee that. I can't even really talk to you about that. And we've actually turned down clients before because they want us not to rent to a certain ethnic group or a certain number of children, or they don't want us to rent to people who are not married. Right? So we cannot discriminate like that. And so I look at ourselves as the buffer between us and the client, because one of my jobs is to keep them out of trouble.
That's right.
Right. So and of course some clients have certain preferences, and a lot of times I just have to, close my ears and go la 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 la. I'm not listening to you, or I have to tell them to go elsewhere, to find another property manager.
What about no pets? Could you do that one?
No pets. Pets are not a protected class.
Okay.
So yes,
that's kind of too bad.
And a matter of fact, there was getting back on the idea about knowing the laws and regulations. As part of our National Association of Residential Property Managers, we have a government liaison officer who kind of looks out over pending legislation. And there was a move afoot, I think it was last year, where there was a law proposed that would require owners to allow tenants to have pets. If they wanted to have a pet, that they would have to be allowed to. And we fought that tooth and nail, and we won, because an owner should have the right to say, no, I don't want a pet coming in here destroying my property.
Sure.
On the other hand, the owners that do allow pets open themselves up to a lot wider prospective pool of tenants. And often we can actually charge more rent for properties that will allow pets. And the middle road is they say, well, Carl, we'll leave it up to you whether or not you think that they should have a pet, and what kind of pet. Often we won't allow what are considered aggressive breeds, such as pit bulls or Rottweilers, and that upsets some people because they say, well, it's not the dog, it's the owner, and a lot of times it's true. But if you get bit by a Chihuahua, you might dab some iodine on it, but if you get bit by a pit bull, your arm might come off, right? So we have to think of liability and those type of things. And many often, homeowners insurance will not cover people who have these dangerous breeds of dogs, right? So these are kind of things that, as a professional property manager, I gotta know, and where a lot of times the layperson doesn't know. Another thing we talk about the move in and move out of a tenant. And this kind of goes hand in hand with like returning a security deposit. The biggest question that we have a lot of times as property managers is, and via the owners as well, is what is normal wear and tear as opposed to tenant damage?
I've been around that one with landlords before, sure.
And a lot of times you have private landlords who want to charge a tenant for everything, and you simply can't, right? Or they're not sure of what you can withhold and what you can't withhold. If I was talking to a client today, as a matter of fact, we're talking about drains. Okay? Normally, if a drain is clogged up, you send out the plumber, it's going to be a tenant charge, because drains don't automatically become plugged up, but not every time. It depends on what the plumber pulls out. Because a lot of times the drains will have a buildup over the years and just it comes to the point where they don't drain well anymore. It's kind of like going to McDonald's, right, and then you have a heart attack. Is it the cheeseburger you ate yesterday? Or is it the cheeseburger you ate 10 years ago, right? You know what I mean? Which one caused the hardening of the arteries? The same thing with drains. Sometimes it's just a natural buildup, and if they don't pull anything out, you can't charge the tenant for that. But if you find a toy ball or car stuck down the toilet, which we've had before, that's pretty cut and dry. Well, obviously somebody put something down there they shouldn't have. I'm sorry, but you're going to have to pay for it. And of course, that's spelled out very concretely in our lease, which many owners